After the debut of the 9-member girl group Twice in 2015, now over 10 years ago, the K-pop industry forever changed. Twice would soon soar to unprecedented heights of popularity all across South Korea, Japan, and eventually all across the world. While becoming successful in the K-pop industry is extremely difficult, maintaining that success is even more difficult. Trends come and go, and right now, new groups are being developed and debuting faster than ever. And frankly, it's pretty hard to keep a group together. Members may start disagreeing with their company, or want to focus on their solo careers, or maybe they just stop getting along with other members of the group. But love them or hate them, I think Twice has achieved something pretty remarkable. They've stayed together for over 10 years and have continued to find success with their music globally. I want to talk about how this has been made possible. Besides the given, like lots of hard work and talent, what strategic choices allowed Twice to reach and maintain success for over 10 years? Let's talk about it. When Twice debuted in 2015 with their first mini-album, The Story Begins, their title track, like helloooo, received what some might call a lukewarm initial reaction, debuting at 22nd place on Calm Digital chart. And I say lukewarm because Twice was one of the most looked forward to debuts of that entire year. After 16, the survival show that decided which members were going to be a part of Twice, the public was eagerly waiting for their debut. In a more recent 2022 interview, Chio and Momo stated that they were both feeling a bit doubtful after their debut didn't do as well as they had hoped, with Chio stating, like helloooo didn't top the chart right away, I had no expectations, I couldn't imagine our future. But despite the rough start, as Twice began promoting on music shows, more and more people started recognizing their potential and started paying attention. While their debut may have felt slightly underwhelming, things changed very soon after when Twice released Cheer Up the following year in 2017. Cheer Up skyrocketed Twice's popularity to unfathomable heights. Cheer Up debuted at first place on 8 real-time charts in South Korea and continued breaking records for many months after. Around the time that Twice debuted and when Cheer Up was released, so 2016, 2017, there were 2 very dominant concepts among girl groups in South Korea. One was a sexy, fierce concept dominated by groups like Sistar and EXID, and the other dominant concept was more pure and innocent, like early Girls' Generation and A-Pink. Arguably, Twice kind of broke into their own lane in terms of concepts, looking at both like helloooo and Cheer Up. Both songs combined freshness with some grit. They didn't lean overwhelmingly in the girl crush direction, nor did they lean overwhelmingly in the pure and fresh direction. For the next 4 years, Twice rarely ever strayed from this concept. Even though Cheer Up, Knock Knock, Yes or Yes, and more all had a unique sense to each of them, at the end of the day, fans and listeners could recognize all of the songs as being uniquely Twice. Some might argue that sticking to the same concept in K-pop is a risk. And I mean, K-pop does move extremely fast. What's popular today could feel stale the next. But Twice's consistency became one of their greatest strengths. Listeners knew what they were getting, and they loved it. Twice had hit their stride and become one of the biggest girl groups in South Korea. And they also became known as the nation's girl group during this period of time. It also helped that Twice was relentless in those early years. Their schedule was frankly exhausting to look at from the outside. Constant comebacks, back-to-back music show promotions, Japanese releases, Korean releases. There was virtually no downtime, and the members have mentioned this in many of their interviews that time was super exhausting. But that grind paid off in a very specific way. It meant Twice was everywhere, all the time, and their sound became deeply embedded in K-pop's cultural fabric during that era. To this day, new fans still fall down the rabbit hole of Twice's early discography. That's the result of years of consistency and a genuine understanding of what made them special. So when 2019 rolled around and Twice released Feel Special, something felt different. The song was softer, more vulnerable. For a group known for bright, high-energy songs, this was a noticeable departure, but it didn't feel jarring. And I think that's the key point here. Feel Special wasn't just a concept change for the sake of staying relevant, the song carried real weight. It was released after one of the most turbulent stretches in Twice's career, a period marked by members' health struggles, public scrutiny, and Mina's hiatus. The emotional sincerity of Feel Special felt very genuine, both for the group and for the fans who had been there through all of it. And because Twice had spent 4 years building such a strong, clearly defined identity, they had this credibility to evolve. Had Twice tried to make a Feel Special in 2016, it might have landed differently or not at all. But in 2019, after everything the group and their fans had been through together, it felt like exactly the right song at the right time. There's a very common playbook in K-pop right now, especially among newer groups, and it goes something like this. Debut, build a domestic fan base, and then almost immediately start pushing for global recognition. Of course, US attention is often a big focus. English songs, collaborations with Western artists, performances at American award shows, you get the point. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that strategy. It has worked well for some groups, but I think Twice's approach was fundamentally different, and I'd argue it's one of the smarter long-term moves that they made. When Twice debuted in 2015, the focus was singular: South Korea. And as we talked about earlier, they promoted very relentlessly. By the time Cheer Up dropped in 2017 and TT followed that same year, Twice was not just popular in South Korea. They were the girl group. So while Twice was cementing their place at the top of the South Korean market, they were simultaneously making a very deliberate push into Japan. And this does make sense, considering 3 of the 9 members, Mina, Sana, and Momo, are all Japanese. But this wasn't a casual effort. Twice also relentlessly promoted in Japan. This meant Japanese versions of their biggest songs, original Japanese releases, and live performances there on a pretty regular basis. To capture a market, you have to show up consistently and put in the work. And Twice did exactly that. Within just a few years of their South Korean debut, Japan had become a massive second market for Twice. One of the most successful markets a K-pop group has ever built there. During all of this, Twice was already building a global fan base. Not intentionally, or at least not in the way we usually think about targeting an audience, but naturally, organically. The music was good, the performances were compelling, and the internet naturally did what it does best. People around the world found out about them, myself included. So by the time Twice released The Feels in 2021, their first full English single, it didn't feel so much like they were introducing themselves to the world. If anything, this song just helped expand their global fan base and deepen it in different countries. So fast forward to now, and the results of the sequencing are pretty clear. Twice's popularity in South Korea has naturally evolved. They're no longer the dominant cultural force that they were in the early years, which is completely normal for any group a decade into their career. But rather than that being the end of the story, their global audience, and particularly their US audience, has stepped in and picked up that torch. Their current tour is doing very well, both in the US and globally, and the fan base has globalized in a way that feels very sustainable rather than manufactured. The key takeaway here is that Twice did not try to win the whole world at once. They didn't even try to win the US. They built their foundation in South Korea, and then Japan gave them some staying power, and then the global push in 2021, when it finally came, had a lot of credibility behind it and a deep discography. That is not luck. That's strategy. Hello everyone, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it a lot. If you have any video requests, please do leave them in the comment section and I'll do my best to get to them. But yeah, thanks so much.